Africa saved me. Africa and the knowledge of Africa and meeting African brothers in America and then coming over to Africa and meeting brothers like you, it saved me because it gave me knowledge of who I am, where I come from, knowledge of myself. And that's what most African Americans are missing.
Come follow me to a secret place where only the moon can see. Beyond the shores, there is something more.
Today is 15th of April 2020, and then we are just at the beach relaxing, taking it easy. Me and my brother right here from the United States, we've started something, a great project. So we came here to discuss it, see how best we can make it happen. For you younger brothers and sisters who want to come to Africa and then start something, we are trying to put up a project, right? All right, so whilst having a conversation, he made mention of a video that he watched on my YouTube channel where I interviewed an African brother who had gone to the United States and then back for I think 1 or 2 months. But then during the conversation, he made mention of how he feels about African Americans. So I had a lot of comments under that video, right? And then we had a conversation and he said, okay, EKOW, there is something that I want to say in addition to that. In addition means it can be, the opposite, or maybe he has something to say with the video and then with the content of the video. So Kwame, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you've read some of the comments that came under the video.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then you felt
they coming for you, EKOW.
They coming for me.
Well, we gonna fix it. We gonna talk about it.
Yeah. That is one thing that I feel we can do. People have opinions. They react to how they see things. All right. So sometimes, yes, we can comment, we can attack, we can do all that, but at the same time, we can also tell a different story in relation. So, what is the whole story? I mean, you've watched the video. What can you say about the whole thing?
All right. Well, first and foremost, greetings and salutations, everybody. It's your brother G in the U.S., Kwabena over here in Ghana. Yeah, man, I saw the video, man, and it was difficult to watch. And the reason is because it just highlighted the disconnect that exists between Ghanaians and African Americans. What the brother, one thing he mentions was that when he goes to America, African Americans think they're better than him, and they're looking at him and his culture and denigrating it. But what he has to realize is that many African Americans, we're ignorant of our culture. We don't know enough about our culture to really respect it in the way that it should be respected. So what would have been better is if instead of looking at the African Americans saying, they don't respect the culture, they think they're better than me, it would have been better to teach, to educate, to enlighten brothers about the culture. Because the truth is, we just don't know. The ones of us that do know, if he would have ran into us, we would definitely salute him and show respect. But we're not the majority in America. Most Americans are not yet, African Americans are not yet knowledgeable about the culture. So that's the first thing. He's got to take the opportunity to educate, to teach people about the culture when they talk down on it.
Okay, wait, I'm coming. So when you talk about the culture, that most African Americans don't know much about the culture. Which culture are you talking about? Is it the African culture?
African culture. You have to understand the big picture of what was done to us. African Americans were stripped of their culture. You know this. Yeah. Our culture was taken from us, and that happened 250 years ago. We're so far removed from the culture, it's not even funny. I mean, because even our African American culture is rooted in African culture. Something like greeting people.
Yeah.
Where I come from, small little country areas where there's still a prevalent Black American culture, you have to greet people. You have to greet your elders because we still have those pieces of African culture that are there. But most African Americans are removed from that. Most African Americans, that's not a tradition anymore. And that's because we've been taught Western culture and we've adopted Western culture. More than anything, we need Africans to save us. We need Africans to re-enlighten us of our culture. And that takes looking at it from a different perspective. Instead of saying these Africans are their own worst enemy, these African Americans are their own worst enemy, they're their own problem, you have to look at it and say, okay, these African Americans don't have knowledge of their culture and where they come from. How can I use my knowledge to help? But the best thing he could have did was put his work and his knowledge to use in the African American community. I mean, if he has knowledge of community development, he could be in the African American community, lending his knowledge and sharing knowledge. Because most African Americans, we lack that knowledge. So there's a gap in understanding how detrimental our history has been. I mean, it's really hurt us a lot. Africa saved me. Africa and the knowledge of Africa and meeting African brothers in America and then coming over to Africa and meeting brothers like you, it saved me because it gave me knowledge of who I am, where I come from, knowledge of myself. And that's what most African Americans are missing. And that's what we need you guys to help us bring back. Yeah. And that's why every chance I get, I come talk to you, brother, to educate the people.
Yeah. So yes, he made mention of something that Africans need to save us. So we need to save the African American people. We need to save, bring the culture to your doorstep and say, this is how we do things. Yeah. Instead of attacking you for not knowing something else. Wow. Yeah, I understand. So what do you think? Is it that the African American community, are they aware of the culture, and is there anything in America that is teaching these African Americans who are upcoming the culture, the tradition? Is there a system? Is there an institution that is doing that?
There are groups of African Americans who are attempting to teach the culture, but here's the issue that we have in America. There are a million different ways to look at African culture. African culture is the most diverse culture of any culture on earth. There's the Rastafari culture. There's the ancient Egyptian culture. There's the Ghanaian culture, the Akan tradition. There's the Yoruba culture. There's so many different cultures. One man can't teach it all. Oh, yeah. It can't just be small community groups. They're doing a great job. You have plenty of brothers and sisters. I won't even name names because, it wouldn't do justice. I can't name everybody. But there's a lot of brothers and sisters who are starting, especially with the young African Americans, to teach the culture. But obviously it's not enough because there's so much culture and tradition in Africa. There's the Swahili culture. There's the Zulu culture. I can't even name everything. The Ethiopian culture. So we need all Africans who have any culture to bring it to, the number one thing I get asked by Ghanaians, Africans in general, is, I want to come to America. How can I come to America? But I'll tell you what, if you guys would figure out a way to create an institution that allowed Ghanaians to go to America and teach the culture to African Americans, there would be an opportunity for Ghanaians to go to America. Yeah. There would be an opportunity because people would pay for that. People want that. There is a need for it. So really, we don't have any formalized institution that brings us the culture. I mean, I got the culture through music, listen to the Rastafari music, listen to the Afrobeats music, through movies, I would watch the Nollywood movies, things like that. And then just meeting brothers, meeting Ghanaian brothers, meeting Nigerian brothers, Ethiopian, etc. Going to the restaurants, I eat at the Ethiopian restaurant whenever I get a chance just to learn the culture. But that's not a system. I had to make it happen myself. We need a system where as you guys come, the same way all these churches come to Ghana and teach you guys these foreign religions, Ghanaians can come to America and teach us the culture. Yeah, and in that way, it's a two-way street. Ghanaians get to enjoy America a little bit, and we learn.
But the thing is, 9 minutes, okay. But the thing is, the Americans think that when Africans come to such places, then we're coming for greener pastures. Yeah. Will you, at this point, as an African American who is now in Ghana, trying to make things happen, would you advise, for example, me or Manike or any of the African brothers here to travel to the States to look for greener pastures?
Okay. Well, obviously with coronavirus, I wouldn't tell nobody to go to the States. I ain't even in the States, and I ain't trying to go back while there's coronavirus. But all of that aside, all jokes aside, let's say coronavirus was a non-issue. Personally, I don't have anything against Africans. A lot of people are against the idea of African brothers going to America. I'm not one of those people, and I'll tell you why. If African brothers didn't come to America, I probably still wouldn't have come to Africa, because what helped me more than anything, like I said, was meeting Africans in America who fed me fufu, and who told me about Chateau Ale while I was in America, and had me thinking, okay, I want to see what's up in Africa. So we need that interchange, that connection. Secondly, what I would love to see Africans help us to rebuild our communities in America too. It's a two-way street. Like I said, we need Africa to save us too. Africa is not poor like people try to say, because this is your land. You own it. You have ownership. African Americans, we don't have the same level of ownership in America, so we're struggling. We're living in a great place in terms of infrastructure and wealth. Yes, there's a lot compared to Africa in terms of material possessions, but we don't own it. We need help buying it. We have this thing in America called gentrification, where richer white people come into our communities, rebuild it, and kick us out.
Wow.
But if we had connections with Africans who had money, we could team up, we could buy these buildings, we could build up our communities, and we could stay in them. So I'm not against Africans coming to America, as long as we're teaming up and doing this as a collective, investing in these black communities in America, and then you guys could own a piece of America too. Exactly. My belief is, if white people could colonize Africa, colonize the Caribbean, and colonize African American communities, why can't Africans and African Americans come together and recolonize these places? Why can't Africans go to Jamaica and team up with the Jamaicans to buy up Jamaica instead of the Chinese doing it? Team up with African Americans to buy up the hood, buy up Baltimore, buy up DC, buy up Miami, buy up Atlanta, instead of these white people doing this. So I'm not against y'all coming. I think y'all should come and work with us. Bring your money, put it together the same way we want to bring our money to Africa and invest. It's a two-way street, because we still live there and we still want to build up our community. So come on, come to greener pastures. As long as we can do home,
something together.
This is the base. This is the base. The whole world is our place. Black is our race. But Africa is our base. But the whole world is still our place. I'm not saying throw away anything.
We can go anywhere, but Africa is the base.
But Africa is the base.
That's what it is. He has really spoken from his heart, and I appreciate you sharing your whole thought about the video that we did early on. And this is the time for us to connect. Some of you were saying that video was to disconnect. Yes, I understand, because of the content and everything that has to do with it. But then right now, Kwame has also given us a different version of the whole experience as an African American in the state. Thank you very much for checking us out. I'll put his email in the description. You can email him anytime you feel you need to talk to him about coming to Ghana, settling in Ghana and all that. He's doing his best to make things happen. Thank you very much for checking us out, and stay home. Africa to the world. Peace.